Penguin Random House Audio presents The Unfiltered Enneagram, a witty and wise guide to self-compassion. This is the author, Elizabeth Orr. To my faithful and funny as hell Type 6 friend, K. Virginia Chrisman, I hope this book can stand as evidence to you that sometimes the things you suspect will work out well actually do. And to my brilliant and visionary Type 7 friend, K. Monet Rice, I hope this book can stand as evidence to you that unapologetically staying in your lane can manifest a reality that's even better than what you imagined was possible. Author's note: this is not another Enneagram book. I'm willing to bet that you're listening to this book because you're interested in the Enneagram. So let me come clean to you right off the bat. This is not an Enneagram book. Sure, we're going to talk a lot about the Enneagram, but this book is not principally about the Enneagram. I didn't write this book because I think there aren't enough resources about the Enneagram out there already. There are, and many of them are excellent. I wrote this book because there will never be enough said, written, or cosmically transmitted about the lifelong work of learning how to love ourselves well. That isn't to say there haven't also been some brilliant things said about the subject of self-compassion. There have. It's just that our world is so full of messages about why we aren't deserving of love that we can't fight against those narratives enough. Now, the irony isn't lost on me that this book, and indeed my reputation, if you're familiar with it at all, aren't warm and cuddly and sweet. In fact, they're quite the opposite. I've built a whole persona and an entire secondary career for myself on being rude to strangers on the internet about their Enneagram type. So, the idea that I have anything meaningful to contribute to the conversation around self-compassion is one that you'd probably be right to be skeptical of, especially sixes, although, in all fairness, you were going to be skeptical of me regardless. But let me make my case for how this book, arguably the literary equivalent of a Comedy Central roast on Enneagram Type, might actually support you in your journey to loving yourself more fully. Why self-compassion? In the method for Enneagram typing interviews that I've been trained with, the first 3 questions ask interviewees to pick adjectives to describe themselves, and the second question asks them to think about the adjectives that someone who absolutely adores them would pick to describe them. When I invite people to see themselves through the loving lens of someone they are close to, the edges of guardedness and formality tend to soften, and the person I'm interviewing almost transports from my office or Zoom screen into the warm glow of their loved one's affection for them. It's a really special moment in the interview, and if we didn't have 30 other questions to get through, I would let them linger in it for as long as they'd like. You know what? We don't even need a typing interview to get the picture I'm trying to illustrate. We can do this right here and right now. Think, for a moment, about 2 or 3 adjectives that you would use to describe yourself. And then, imagine the 2 or 3 adjectives that someone who holds you in the highest regard might use to describe you. Those fleeting experiences of knowing that we are deeply known and loved by someone else can feel like a far cry from our present reality. I'm not breaking radical ground here in saying that an enormous part of the misery that makes up what my therapist calls the human condition is a relentless onslaught of mixed messages about whether we are deserving of love. Multiple multi-billion-dollar industries are built on the backs of our insecurities, with makeup, fast fashion clothing trends, extreme diet and fitness plans, wellness programs, and plastic surgery all inundating us with the message that exactly how we are right now is unacceptable and must be remedied immediately. Because these industries are so profitable, We don't have to look very hard to find another reason why we aren't worthy of love. In a cold and predatory world that exploits our fears about ourselves, could I sound any more like an 8 right now? Jeez. The intentional act of being compassionate and noticing that which is deserving of love in others is a hopeful lifeline to us all. And this may sound counterintuitive to everything I've just said, but stick with me here. The best place to start cultivating more compassion is with yourself. Yes, it's also probably one of the most difficult places to start, since we've learned to internalize all those nasty messages about how awful we are and how ashamed we should be for being less than perfect. But that's exactly why starting with ourselves is so vital. When you can counter the internal voice that calls you stupid for an honest mistake with a gentle reminder that you're doing the best you can, and that's not stupid at all, then not only are you taking back your own agency from these beauty and wellness business bullies, but you are also helping to teach yourself how to spot that which is deserving of love, despite the cruel landscape of self-inflicted criticisms. And when you can hone that skill with yourself, the person you never get a break from, it becomes easier and easier to offer that practice of generosity to others as well. Self-compassion is not self-indulgence. It is the most badass practice we have available to us for survival in what often feels like a cold and uncaring world. Becoming our own hype people isn't self-serving. If anything, self-compassion is one of the greatest ways we can cultivate more compassion in the world, helping us learn to focus on that which is deserving of love within ourselves, which clarifies our perspective and helps us see those things more easily in others. And far from our exhausting attempts to fit ourselves into a standard that is being sold to us by the vultures of societally acceptable norms, self-compassion is grounded in honesty and humility. Just like the love of someone we trust, self-compassion says, sure, I'm not perfect, but I'm certainly good enough to deserve experiencing love. I'm not saying self-compassion is an easy practice, but it is just that. A practice, a set of muscles that can be strengthened with consistency over time. When we dedicate ourselves to practicing compassion for ourselves, that warm and safe feeling of knowing that we are deserving of love is available to us and to the people around us at all times. Self-compassion is the source of the compassion we give to others, and it is the lens through which we can begin to imagine and build a kinder, more compassionate world. That, friends, is what I wrote this book about. Why the Enneagram? Okay, so self-compassion, essential. Got it. Why the Enneagram then? Before I was ever an author, an Enneagram nerd, or even an associate university chaplain, my day job, go Deeks, I was a meat-headed jock. So, if you'll humor me, I'm going to offer you an answer in the form of a sports analogy. If the goal of this book is to strengthen our muscles of self-love and self-compassion, think about the Enneagram as barbells and cardio machines in a gym. The Enneagram is the equipment with which we're going to strengthen those muscles. And just like on leg day, plan on being sore for a few days afterward. If you're at all familiar with the Enneagram, and if you're not, don't worry, you will be by the end of this book, then you already know that it's an amazing tool to develop our muscles of self-awareness and compassion for ourselves and others. But that isn't what first draws us into the Enneagram. It's the borderline creepy experience of having something describe our innermost thoughts and fears with an uncanny precision. That unsettling experience of recognizing ourselves in a type description is both exhilarating and eerie, and is often the conversion experience that pitches us headfirst into the baptismal font of full-blown, born-again Enneagram.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?